Scott Raab, author of The Whore of Akron, One Man's Search for the Soul of LeBron James. We made the mistake because he was physically born here, that his heart and his soul somehow relied here. Yep. Now, I wouldn't even go as far as to say that he has those two things. But if he does, we know that they didn't reside here. We know that we're finding out, of course, after the fact, that he had almost this hatred and this animosity that lived between Akron and Cleveland, a little brother, big brother syndrome.
Very strange when you think about it. It's not like people born in Akron go, Bengals or Browns, Reds or Tribe. There's no real divide at all. I am not sure that just wasn't kind of post facto, more of the phony baloney that we heard for 7 years. Now, I'm not saying that there's not rivalry or big brother, little brother stuff, but Lord, if he was acting, he did a wonderful job. I heard him. It's in the book. One day with Jim Brown, there was a Sports Illustrated cover, this poster, Legends of Lake Erie, and LeBron wasn't being asked questions. He was making a little speech. Being a Clevelander, I understand. I mean, he wasn't a used car salesman. Were some of those feelings genuine? Who knows? All we can judge is the behavior, and the behavior both in terms of the decision and then all that BS about Akron. There's still people we hate in Cleveland. I mean, here's a guy who's always telling us, I'm a grown man, but he acts like a child. I mean, if you're going to go, show a little bit of grown manness and dignity and class and leave the people behind you with some sense of not having been completely bamboozled by your act.
I think if he had come out and said from the very get-go, listen, I'm going to wind up leaving the day that free agency started.
Oh, well.
I think if he had said, I'm going to leave, and I just want you to know that I love this city, but professionally, I want to become an icon and a billionaire, which he has said. I want to do this in a bigger market. I think people would have been unhappy, and they would have felt a certain way, but there wouldn't have been a level of disgust and contempt that is almost... it goes beyond almost anything. It's biblical, It
is biblical. I think that's a great word. Yeah.
It's so big. But I think that the irony of this whole situation was he was so big, he was so talented, he was so global that he could have made the argument, I don't have to go to a bigger city. He could have made it work in this current media age in a town like Cleveland. He could have done it.
I don't think there's any disputing that. On the one hand, it could be as simple as a guy who really did spend his whole life in northeastern Ohio saying, you know what? I'm taking my talents not to Miami, where they actually, play in that arena. I'm taking my talents to South Beach and just loving the lifestyle. And yet, at the same time, in terms of legacy, one title in Cleveland. And I know I'm a Cleveland fan, and I always will be. But one title in Cleveland would have cemented his legacy, not just in northeastern Ohio, but in the annals of the NBA. And now it really doesn't matter. He could put a few together. I hope it never happens. But everyone will remember him for the decision. I don't care how many titles he wins. And again, I don't think that's just Cleveland or the Cavaliers.
No, I would agree with you. I think if he had won one, I'll even take your statement a step further. I think it would have echoed through all sports, not even just the NBA. I think it would have really gone a long way for Cleveland as a city. Yep. And I think that even if he does win 2 or 3, he's went down there with his garbage about not 4, not 5, not 6. He'll never live up to what he could have been.
The worst thing about that, and when you YouTube it, you see he said it. It's going to be so easy that Pat Riley can come back and play point guard. I mean, have you ever heard, forget pro athlete, anyone at the top of any profession tell you how easy it was to get there? There's something wrong in that man's head.
Well, you point out in the book that he is a person who never knew humility, that never knew suffering, that never knew falling short in any way in his life. And for him personally, he views things as that easy because on a one-on-one basis, on a nightly basis, things probably are that easy for him. But you remember, I know you noted in the book, Dwayne Wade was sort of wincing when he said that because Dwayne Wade knows what it takes to win a championship.
The thinking behind some of LeBron's statements, if he says that, then clearly he means he's not accountable for any of the responsibility for the Cavaliers not having made it to the top. Now, he wasn't Danny Ferry plus Mike Brown plus the staff plus everything that went wrong with every decision that got made. But God, he's really a guy who has shirked responsibility every step of the way. So he goes to Miami. He's got Dwayne Wade. He's got Pat Riley as president of the team. Bosh is playing great. They're up on the Mavericks, and he chokes. And there's no question you don't have to be a Clevelander or a Cavs fan to ascribe entirely the responsibility for them losing that series to LeBron's inability to perform under pressure. And he still doesn't seem to get it. He comes out after the loss and talks about all the little people, all the haters who have to get up the next day with their miserable little lives. Something wrong with the guy. I mean, I hate to get into that whole father stuff. You know, it's not like I know LeBron James personally, but clearly there was no one in his life who ever told him or modeled the fact it's not easy. Nothing comes easy that's worthwhile. Nothing. He doesn't seem to grasp that yet, despite all the I'm a grown man stuff.
Well, I think we all know that this goes for every human being on the planet. You don't appreciate something until you work for it. It doesn't appear as though he's had to work for much of anything in his life. You know, obviously he was entitled and spoiled from the time he was very, very young by his mother. She has a sense of entitlement of herself. She's above the law. She's done all these, insane things that she's, treated the staff and even the police, like I said, slapping a police officer or a hotel attendant at one point down in Miami. She has now projected this upon him. She's raised him in this environment, and then as soon as that athletic ability gave way to where he could then earn those things on his own, I'm sure no woman has ever said no to him. I'm sure no person has ever said no to him. And it's funny. I actually have a little story, a personal sort of story. A very, very close friend of mine worked for a well-known doctor in Cleveland, and this was the time of the Yankees hat incident in baseball.
07. Yeah.
And she was up there. They were having a meal with the doctors. He had invited his staff out to this exclusive restaurant. It was during one of the games, and it just so happened that LeBron James and some of his friends were in that same restaurant. Okay, my friend said that she had a little too much to drink, and she said that they got a little rowdy at their table and were actually saying things over to LeBron in his table.
Nice.
They got up. My friends did. They went up to the bar to order a drink, which they probably didn't need at that point, frankly. And LeBron shuffled over with one of his buddies. And he said, "So you're a hater, huh?" And she said, "Listen, I don't care who you like. I don't care that you happen to like a team that I despise. But the fact is, you don't have to rub it in the fans' face. We pay a lot of money, and we basically worship the ground you walk on. You could just keep it at home. You could say openly that you were a fan, but you don't have to show up to a game and wear the hat." And he just kind of cocked his head to the side and kind of looked at her. He was at a loss for words because somebody just laid something out for him.
And not in a nasty way.
No. And then at that point, her friend said, "Can we get an autograph while you're here?" And LeBron got a dirty look on his face and said, "What? So you can tell everybody that you had my baby?" And turned around and walked away.
Whoa.
So there's your LeBron James. Classy.
Oh,
how you're
man.
going to interact with the fans in your city. Okay.
It's
and anybody who
interesting.
challenges you.
When he wore the Yankees cap, and I was blogging Esquire.com, I wrote about him as worthless scum and said the sooner he gets his ass out of town, the better. And the feedback I got from Cleveland fans was so nasty, and it was so devoid of any sense of pride or dignity. And I tried to say, if Larry Bird had done exactly the same, if Larry Bird had worn a Yankees cap to Fenway for the opening of a playoff series, been interviewed on national TV wearing a Yankees cap, it would have perhaps destroyed, but certainly profoundly affected his career as a Boston Celtic. And he's from Indiana. He didn't grow up in the Boston area. And here LeBron James did exactly that, and the fans here, "Please, LeBron, please." I mean, to me, it's like building the statue for Jim Tomei. On some level, I'm not comparing that with LeBron, but I find it absurd that Jim Tomei, who basically lied in everyone's face, you're going to have to rip this jersey. They're building him a statue now.
Yeah.
Are things that needy and pathetic that we need a statue for Jim Tomei?
I would agree with you 100%. We've debated that on the show, whether or not how you can compare Tomei's legacy. And to me, you're right. He turned his back on the city in his prime over something that he said it wouldn't come down to, which was money, a small amount of money in one quote-unquote guaranteed year.
Right.
And now Cleveland, I think, to your point, is so hungry, so just desirous of any kind of victory, of any kind of winning, that they're willing to sell their soul on an individual person-by-person level to worship these guys. And Tomei is no different in that sense than LeBron, that we went nuts. We went crazy. We lost our place in this world to celebrate these guys because they gave us a taste of greatness, and we haven't had it. We were so starved for so long.
I wish everyone would go to Cooperstown, the Baseball Hall of Fame. You don't have to spend the whole day there to realize what a historic and in many wonderful ways a franchise the Tribe is. The Browns, of course, were a paragon of consistency and excellence for decades.